Three of us flew up, escaping the sea tentacles. The giant enemy grew smaller and smaller in our vision as we gained distance. We got away. It was just a strange feeling. It was hard to believe that only minutes ago, dusty tentacles had been tearing through our spacesuits. Canxue was quick on the uptake. She followed us, now calm and collected. Honestly, I thought she'd be in far more disbelief. I do like this music though. This is actually a really good song. Music by you. With a pop, a teddy suddenly appeared in the spacious above her head. Her eyes flared up in real light. A moment later, revelation being blasted out from them, nearly taken off Lisette too. I can't help but feel that there was some kind of one theme between Canxue's dress and her teddy bear. Did she really have such great taste? Maybe her room was actually full of such deeds. I asked her about it. Seeing to become some flesh was a pleasant surprise. The special round cheese popped again. 5 more cherry pills joined the force, bringing the total up to 6. But just as I was about to ask which one was which, 5 flying emus came flying in hot pursuit, intending to stop us from escaping. So I'm assuming, you know, Lisette and Circe are probably more close range types, while Canxue is more of a range type. Even before she finished speaking, Lisette was always swooping towards them. I hurried to follow her in the wake. 6 red leeches shot past us, converging on 3 of the enemies with pinpoint accuracy. Lisette and I hit the aliens about the same time. I almost feared the enemy was panicking as it faced its first counterattack from mankind. With strings of our weapons, we easily dispatched creatures in moments. That was the first victory mankind scored against the invaders. And so our existence were heralded as a revolutionary discovery, but at the same time we were also seen as incomprehensible and suspicious presence. We don't want to have produced any kind of results as such that should be acknowledged and put into use. That's my sense at least. It's strange, I could somehow feel the frustration in his words from having his opinion discarded. In the eyes of those stubborn fools, you 3 are an unplanned development that came out of nowhere. Right now, you're getting in the way of their plans. On the off chance you do, Crippen decides to blow the enemy, all of the funds they invested in facilities they built would have been for none. So I had to stop for a minute because I didn't think Circe speaks. I don't know if she spoke to begin, but it's mostly been just like kind of silent, and she hasn't. Seems like she hasn't speak, but she actually does speak. I didn't know that. I must not really paid attention to the beginning. Precisely. I don't know what kind of deal he made with the top brass, but it seems that in exchange for being allowed to form a unit, we've been told to stay clear of the fighting. We've been stationed away from the battlefield on the orbital base of Circus Earth. Even if we deploy right away, we won't make it before the first shot spot. I'll do something. I just realized something. Save. It's a collate save, dude. Oh. And then I wanna go back here. I'm just gonna go back here for really quick. I just realized something. Sense. Okay, I thought so. You don't see her face at all. But I thought there was one area where you would see her face. And it would be right here. Cause you see these and then you got her, so you can see her face slightly. And then you got these, which I'm assuming more. So alright. Let's go back. So I just realized that's what she should look like. I don't know if it's gonna show an image of it at all, but that seemed like the most theme. So we've been 6 far away from the battlefield and over the base that struck us over. Even if we deploy while away, okay, for shots fired.
そもさ、無理だと思うけど、ザコとは戦えるにしても、あのでっかいのはどうすんの?
She's unfortunate got just an enemy we got power. For now, it's been designated Waydon's eye. Waydon was an aloof, shoeless artist dating from the late 19th century to the early 20th century. His book depicts all sorts of monstrosities. One of them is a gigantic floating eyeball which looks similar to the giant alien. They're used their special weapon. The reactor warhead, it's only been used 5 times in history because of how utterly destructive it is. It is mankind's ultimate weapon.
Oh, でもさ、大抵の場合、効果ないんだよね。核でも倒せぬとはとかいう展開になりがち。
That's how the movies and books Lisette likes usually end up going. I only hope that this time that won't be the case. And However makes it clear that he fully expects Lisette's prediction to come true.
ですが、北京条約で宇宙空間に反応弾を配備するのは禁じられていたのでは?
Preparations for the use were secretly made in anticipation of possible enemy attacks. This is a good excuse for them to openly utilize them.
噂は本当だったというわけですわね。
Canxue's voice is ice cold. She's originally from the moon, where an independence movement has been gaining popularity in recent years. The rumors that the nations of Earth are preparing to use nuclear weapons to silence them.
当たり前じゃん。秘密兵器っていうのは秘密で秘密だから秘密のうちに配備されてるものなのさ。そうか。僕らがまだ導入されないのは秘密戦隊だからだったんだな。なるほど。そうかそうか。
A secret squadron. That reminds me of something. Lisette has shown me media with secret squadrons and all sorts of special rangers, but why do they have to dress in such flashy colors? I'm pretty sure that such gaudy costumes will make them unforgettable. Besides, how are they supposed to be secrets? That's right, you're a secret squadron. Most people on Earth don't know about our existence yet, but by the time this fight ends, they'll know about us one way or another. You're the only ones who can fight them. His words are full of certainty and confidence. He's such a strange man. Without him, we would never would have acknowledged as a lunatic. The 6 lasers Canxue fired hit 2 enemies in sets of 3. One A was cut into 3 distinct pieces while the other was blown in half, though it kept coming towards us. With the aliens' formation disrupted, Lisette not easily dispatched the rest. Lisette took down 2 by the city, while I finished the one that Canxue maimed before I killed another.
私たちの力が通用しますのね。まだ信じられませんわ。お嬢は信じなくてもいいけどさ、僕はヒーローだから当然だね。
Going on in this victory, the three of us have beaten back wave after wave of these aliens. At this point, the three of us have killed over 50 of them.
来ないな。もう玉切れかにゃ。そうか、僕らに恐怖したな。あの巨大な敵が火星圏から離れたからだと思いますわ。
I agree with Canxue's assessment. That gigantic presence was different for the way. I feel strange. Ever since I assumed this form, it felt like my senses were adapted to space. It was like I could feel things against my skin and smear them despite the vacuum. The gigantic enemy felt like a sense of pressure, or maybe a distance was feet, but by now I stopped feeling it for some time. Not only was the gigantic enemy moving away from us, we were moving away from it while evading the smaller aliens. At this point, we've grown distant from it.
なら生存者の救出だ。なんたって僕らはヒーローだからな。
We made our way to the Phobos and Deimos bases. Along the way, we found the ruins of the fleet. Dozens of ships floated through space without a survivor to be found. In fact, we didn't even find any corpses. All bases were completely destroyed, and just as devoid of life such as shipwrecks. It occurred to me that perhaps the enemy swarmed the human, regardless if they were still alive or already dead, and carried them back to the mothership. The broken crushed remains of humans we had seen back at the mothership supported the idea. Haven't found nothing out of space went to Martian surface. Martian invadment wasn't all that advanced yet. Its population consists of only 10,000 people, most of who lived in the East Canal base. We decided to search them that day for us. The moment the boats came to view, it was evident that the odds of anyone's survival was slim. The base's 5 massive domes were all destroyed, and the corridors connecting those domes to ensure the facilities will breach the countless places. It was clear that the total atmosphere was gone from the way each hull was surrounded by large amounts of debris. There probably hasn't been any time for emergency procedures or evacuations. We went to the underground control room, discovering that it too had been breached. However, it seemed to have escaped the initial attack. Only the doors and walls had been destroyed. So it was clear that the people here had met a horrible fate. There were puddles of blood, unidentified red smears, and bullet holes everywhere. All the evidence drew a disparate picture of what transpired here. The survivors of the initial attack had likely been forced to retreat deeper to the facility by the enemy. Here they made a futile last stand before meeting their end. Fortunately for us, while the primary power had failed, the auxiliary power still on, we were able to successfully reboot the systems. Most of the munitions immediately glowed red with alerts, but we could still grasp of the situation in the facility. It didn't look good. Most of the facility's air had been vented from Mars to Astro. No one would still be alive unless they were wearing a spacesuit. Although there were distress signals going off across Mars' surface, all of them will automatically transmit. This other base was small. It was meant for studying geology, consisting of 3 small domes. All 3 domes had large cracks running through them. We split up, searching for survivors, but found none. The most interesting thing we found was a small rover, the kind designed to be piloted by someone wearing their own spacesuit. Its wreck was a good distance away from the base's perimeter. There was a large amount of blood on the driver's seat, which implied the driver was killed while trying to escape before his body was carried off. Aside from the blood, all we could find of him was a bloody name tag that said Takashi Izuka.
おかしい。ここには絶対にいるはずだ。僕の野生の勘が告げているんだ。この探査車の行動、少々不自然ですよね。
When I asked what was strange about it, Canxue replied by pointing to the tire tracks.
襲撃を受けたなら一刻も早く逃げようとするはずですわ。それなのにここで一旦停止してから再度発進してますわ。しかも発進してすぐこちらでぐるっと回ってますわ。
In other words, they were distracting the enemy. Is that what she thought the rover's driver had been doing?
慌てて操縦してたまたまとも考えられますけど。わかったぞ。
Lisette approached a ruined materials storehouse near the rover's wreck. She put on one of the thin, flexible walls, tearing it away. The wall was really just a sheet meant to keep the dust off of the material store with him. The unpressured interior was spacious, clearly meant to enable work while in a spacesuit. Most of the supplies within have been ruined. This is a really poor choice of a hiding place. Even if you were looking for survivors, the storehouse would be the last place you'd think of to find one. But now, with the wall put away, we find a small form and a spaceship sitting hooded on the ground.
生きてる？ああ、生きてる生きてる！生存者発見！さあ立って！
I feel like they'd be scared because of how they look. They look kind of scary in the back. I assume the red one is the Canxue because of her red dress, but you can tell that the main character, Circe, is wearing something green. Lisette reached out for the small figure. The face I saw through the visor was that of a small girl, barely into her teens, if even that.
一度は敵に襲撃された場所にわざわざ隠したというわけですわね。
The girl's eyes were completely blank. She didn't respond to anything we said.
あれ？もしもし？立てないの？
She dead? Scattered around the field were over 10 tanks of air. Apparently she had been using them to strike for some time.
もしかして怖がってる？なら大丈夫。
I feel like
僕はヒーローだから。
10 tanks of air. And if she's been there for a while, she probably eventually passed.
何言ってますの？救助に来たのだとちゃんと伝えるのが先ですわ。いきなりヒーローと言われて納得する方がいるとでも？
I simply said in my mind, being a hero suits Lisette. She's a hero to me after all.
じゃあこれあげる。
I raised my voice in surprise. Lisette was holding on to her badge of the invincible girl Gretel. The cartoon was more than a 10-year old at this point, but she still kept the badge with her now. She even wore it as a pendant. I once looked it up on Ram. Apparently it's worth a lot of money to white collectors. Not that Lisette would ever be willing to sell it though.
何かあったらこれを握ってヒーローを助けてって呼べば僕がどこからでも駆けつけるから。
But Tim and Nod, the girl reached out and took the pendant from Lisette. Okay, so the girl is still alive. It almost sounded like she passed away. Canxue brought over a night ticket auction for the girl. When I asked where she had found it, apparently it has been in the night storeroom near the dome. I took more of the digest all the information we had gathered. It had probably been quite some time since the enemy attacked the spot. Just from the amount of empty tanks from the girl, it was clear that the fact she survived for so long was nothing short of a miracle. I'm not sure why it took so long for me to realize that. Canxue of Portugal was saying.
変ですわ。この子のタンク、酸素残量がほぼゼロですわ。キルケ、手分けして探しますわよ。
With that, she quickly exchanged the girl's oxygen ring. She moved defensively without any wasted motions. Watching Canxue work made me feel a bit pathetic and feared her even. On top of that, we had rescued the girl, but how we were supposed to get her off Mars?
そうだ。この子も変身させちゃおう。却下ですわ。どうして？僕らと同じ状況に彼女もすればできるようになるって。
At first, I almost agreed with that idea. We were examples that it was possible. All we had to do was put her in the same position as we were. The meaning of what they could tell collector's place, I found myself shouting out. They said, "What are you thinking? Doing that would mean having this girl suffer through all the terrible dangers we endured."
だからそうすればこの子だって変身できるじゃん。
Freaking idiot, Lisette. She said that while looking at me like she didn't understand what was wrong with the idea. Actually made me feel like I was in the wrong for not agreeing for.
確かに同じ状況に置けば変身できるようになるかもしれませんわね。
I couldn't help but let out a shock. Huh? Even Canxue was agreeing that we could put the little poor girl through an awful experience.
でもどうやってあそこへ連れて行きますの？僕がおぶってとか？秘密服だけしか防護がない人間をむき出しのまま運ぶんですの？無理か。
Thinking back on it, the first half of Lisette's proposal to carry the girl on our backs would actually have been possible. It's just that back then we weren't sure if our powers were capable of that. At first, we took the girl back to one of the few pressurized sections of the East Canal base that throughout the attack, all while the base automatic the sensor to contain the broadcast. By containing such area, we found a working low orbit shuttle, fearing that the enemy might come to check the base second time. We decided to use it to fly the girl to what supplies we were able to scavenge from the base or some distance away. The doors patrolled around the hidden shuttle, anticipating that we might have fended off another enemy attack. But then picked up a transmission from the the logical survey-based communication trauma. Something had responded to the ongoing distress signal. The message came from a high-speed transport ship named the Circe that was on its way to Mars. They had no idea we had transported on Mars, but they expressed concern that our transmission aside from distress cars had ceased. Canxue reported that all mankind in Mars' sphere of influence had been attacked and wiped out. The four of us seemed to be the only survivors. At first they didn't believe us, but once we provided our biometric data proving that we were in the UF, someone able to replace the person that had initially heard us. That someone introduced himself as Major General Kinnison of the UF. That was how we first met the command. He was on his way to the new station in Dimmer Space to serve as the detachment commander of the UFS Mars Surface Fleet deal. Between the images of East Canal space ruins that we sent him and the fact that communications were down across the planet, he eventually believed the story. The UFA hookers had confirmed the situation. We acknowledged the situation on Mars, but we lacked any detailed information. Anything provided us with is valuable and important. Are you assigned to the Demos detachment? I hereby order you to extract the civilian survivor and evacuate the plane immediately. With a goal on our shuttle, we configured it to fly up to a maneuver point on autopilot, with the three of us flying in formation around it to guard it. Less than 5 minutes passed once we reached the maneuver point before we received an emergency transmission from the Herschel. Our vessel, the Herschel, is currently under attack by unidentified foreign hunters. You have vital intelligence, which makes you more vulnerable than us. Evacuate at once. Lisette flew off before she even finished her sentence. Moving so quickly, she turned to flash a light. Her powers make her more capable of fending off much better than she wants, so I agree for the decision. With a nod, I sped off after Lisette. The faster I flew, the more excited I seemed to get. That fact bothered me some, but there wasn't anything I could do about it at the moment. I spotted her ship in the distance, and the shape was clearly different from that civilian dashboard. Its cargo holds were smaller, while its fuel tanks and engines were larger. It wasn't a transport for general usage, but a military vessel required other than fuel consumption and ease of maintenance. The commander of the ship, lubrication, must have been a particularly high-ranking UF officer. Herschel was attacked by 20 enemies. Perhaps they were meant as replacements for the enemies we were taking out earlier. Lisette generated a gigantic burning sword from her hand, using to cut down enemies close in on high-speed transport. Her sword was even bigger when I first saw her use it. It must have been more than 10 times as long as she was tall. Seeing that made me realize I could go big too. Now I wanted to try cutting loose as well. With a thought, I extended my spear light, so my spice it rarely grew to such a length without even becoming any heavier. What a strange weapon. It moved exactly as I wanted to, swinging it around. I mowed down the enemies around me with a single swing. I cut 2 or 3 enemies at once. Beyond us, I could see since 5 enemies breaking off to attack the sucker. Canxue shot them down with her laser before they could reach it. The battle ended in less than 5 minutes. The enemy had been wiped down. We were unharmed. Once the shot had dark with Herschel, the survivor goal was brought on board. Canxue's voice wasn't coming from my earpiece, but was instead resonating directly inside my head. It sounded a little bit different. So, why, after what the aliens did to us, there's no way we would seem like normal humans anymore. First Lieutenant Lisette Agru, First Lieutenant Circe Bernard, and First Lieutenant Lee Canxue. Now then, I order you by authority as commander, board the vegetable once. You may leave your gear in its current state. You heard noise thrown behind Commander Kinnison. The other high-ranking officers with him must have disagreed with his how Commander Kinnison silenced their objections with a single word.
話がわかる。この人いい司令官だ。
Canxue, Lisette, and I passed through the airlock onto the ship. Allow me to confirm, you are Kinnon's infantry with the damage assessment, correct? First Lieutenant Lisette, Agru, First Lieutenant Lee Canxue, and First Lieutenant Circe Bernard.
Hi, Kakka.
Commander Kinnison, though at this point in time he was still just Major General Kinnison was a solemn name, he invoked the image of a cold forged steel in my mind. It was a wholly different level within the three officers standing behind him. They didn't look at us with a mix of disgust and curiosity, but Kinnison's gaze was unclouded and he looked straight at us. One of the three snapped at us, telling us to do away with those ridiculous outfits if he considered us safe soldiers at the UFF. Kitchen and I exchanged glances. We weren't really sure how we changed into our forms, so we weren't sure how to get out of them either. Don't go off, you might go naked. Oh! I thought you would go naked! In the blink of an eye, Lisette returned to how she looked before transforming.
そんな。あれ？なんで脱がないの？ここって軍隊だから、上官の命令に従わないとまずいんじゃなかったっけ？
Richard Kinsey turned around to face the three men behind him. You seem to regard these three as dangerous. Exit this room and close the door to guarantee your safety. This is an order. The officer began complaining loudly. I repeat, this is an order. I will assume all responsibility for this. As a major general's words, he fell silent and moved to the adjacent room. First Lieutenant Lisette argued, you may put on your attire for earlier.
Hi! Hey! Henshin!
Firstly, I want you to tell me how you came to possess this power. Tell me everything.
意見具申をしてもよろしいでしょうか。
Yeah, my permission.
なぜ私たちのような怪しげな存在を敵ではないと判断したのですか？
It's simple. I watched you fire on the monitor earlier. Human technology can't harm the enemy. Their mobility far exceeds ours. No UFE fleet would be able to oppose them. As it stands, current human technology can't defeat these aliens. The only ones who seem to have the potential to defeat them are you three. In this situation, all we can do is rely on you. Does that explanation put you on my knees? Lisette exceeded proudly. I have noticed I'm pumped up face for assignment.
来た燃えたぎるよ。地球の運命は僕にかかっているのか。リゼット、少々の前でその態度は。
I was pretty never sure. Decided Lisette. I tried Lisette about actually plenty of times away in the past, but it always goes in one ear and out the other. Exactly right, at least. I think you are, but it would possibly require great sacrifice to get the top of Brat's seating in her way. I was shocked. How could someone be so amazing? He was the only one who didn't get irritated or angered by Lisette's intakes. Following that, Canxue did most of the talk as she explained the course of events, starting from my debris removal mission near Mars. Canxue's explanation was coaching and organized. Had very little to add. Whenever I opened my mouth, she used to try Lisette whenever she cut in with needless commentary. Major General Kinson's questions were always to the point, despite being a rather long conversation ended before we knew it. During an exchange of note was when we recounted how we descended to Mars' surface and searched the East Cannabis. What is just of there being survivors in the East Canal base? He asked us that question. Kenji's explanation made it very clear that there was no chance of survival, yet he asked again, so as if to make it absolutely clear, given how he never wasted any time already there was some asking the question. This question seemed rather strange.
私たちが実際に見てきた状況と東キャナル基地で得た情報の範囲に限って言えば、生存者がいる可能性はほぼないと思います。
But she seemed to realize something because she quickly added.
ですが、大規模に人員を投入して隅々まで捜索をすれば、生きている区画がある可能性もゼロではないと思いますわ。
You have neither the manpower nor supplies for that. Organizing that kind of mission is impossible. The expression and voice were pretty flat, but I saw him clench his fist tremor. It was a small minor detail. Even if it were possible, it won't be the correct course of action. What we must do now is prepare for the hostilities to come. Must return to you, Jove. It felt more like he was reassuring himself after speaking to us. I later learned that his wife and daughter, who was herself about our age, happened to be visiting Mars that day. Even knowing the chances of that survival was slim, he must have wanted nothing more than to come to the planet's surface and shelter them. During our journey back on Earth, Kinnison worked ceaselessly with us for second sleep in favor of fully understanding our abilities and plan how to utilize them. New to his attention teacher, he figured that we could go out in shifts and help push the transport ship to even faster speeds. That desperate measure allowed us to reach Earth in just a third of the time the usual voyage would take. The moment we arrived, he began intense negotiations with the top brass. The objective of the talks was the formation of our unit. Parts that must have really distracted himself from the grief of losing his wife and child. And so just before the decisive battle again, our special warfare trooper trial unit was founded under the premise that we would serve a central role in the war against the UCC. At the moment, we were stationed at Base 32, a small orbital base in the Earth's orbit located far away from the front line. It should be starting any minute now. A holographic projector inside the HQ room displays how the CC vanguards began to push into the space sector, where the UFE have set up their ambush. And sync the main force in the ambush units by the salvos of ordnance. Canxue's animation is justified. The blasts extend in all directions, enveloping the CC in wave after wave of violent explosions. None of the CC can escape the shower sharper that washes over them like coming tide. At least it would be if we were up against humans. Despite the amount of shots fired, especially huge, although each individual piece of shrapnel from the explosion is highly lethal, the distance involved mean that there are huge gaps in between them. Space just being too slow to take advantage of this, is to eventually take a hit. But the CC are so noble that they actively swim to those wide gaps with dots that come shrapnel, consistently invading and harming all together. These new types of missiles are loaded with multiple autonomous warheads. Once released, the individual warheads trigger once they detect a nearby enemy. You have to be able to evade that easy enough, wouldn't you?
限定する効果はあると思いますが、わざわざ破片が密集している地域を突破するよりそこを回避しようと行動する方が確率は高いですから。そうして誘導した空間に主力艦隊のレーザーの集中射撃を加えれば機動力に優れた敵とはいえそれなりの被害を与えることも期待できる。それが作戦の狙いなのでは？
I see, they made the fleet look like it was just bait, but the wood recoil is actually the wave of ordnance which restricts the CC ability to maneuver. A quite smart one, First Lieutenant. That's exactly what the top brass had in mind. I can hear a bit of chill and mix into the transmission between executing the fleet. The operation is going to Colonel Plan. Several dozen of alien flyers seem to be given off and failed with reactions prove that the laser fire is hitting them. What do I say? I can take this is going to be one of those longer games. It's free, which is odd. I mean, I know like on itch.io, they're free, but like this was on Steam, so it costs like I think $100 to get on Steam, and it was free, which is weird. But I'm not complaining.